Hi, I'm Darren. These are my hands, and today I have an exclusive preview of some of the Groo the Wanderer and Usagi Yojimbo art from the soon-to-be delivered Comics for Ukraine anthology. And yeah, this is all just a setup, but it's fun. So I was really surprised today when I opened my email and I had a message from Eric from the Zoop Collective with a few previews from the upcoming Comics for Ukraine Relief Anthology. I'll tell you more about the fundraiser later. I think we want to look at the comics first. And of course, this is your spoiler warning if you do not want to see any of the artwork from the not yet released Comics for Ukraine. Well, that's what this video is about. What are you doing here? Spoilers abound. So here it is, the first page of Sergio's new Groo the Wanderer story. It is titled The Conquerors. And up in this little title block here, we see some nice stylized title letters there with the clouds of war drifting through, making it look a little bit ominous, as well it should be for the tone of this comic. Now, I guess it's fair to say that although I'm going to be showing you images from both Sergio and Stan's comics, I've only got 2 pages of Groo and 1 page of Usagi Yojimbo, so I'm not giving away the entire story. In fact, you probably got a good idea already that there is going to be a fray involved in the Groo story, and of course a battle in the Usagi Yojimbo story as well. So you're going to see those type of images. I don't think really that's going to be giving away hardly any of the story at all, but just in case you wanted to know ahead of time, that's what you're going to be seeing. So yeah, the story is called The Conquerors. In this first main panel, we see the minstrel. He's playing his lute and he is singing this song. A war against your neighbors is more tragic than the others. Men raise their swords and sabers, waging battle with their brothers. This kind of fight is nothing new and one you must avoid. It is not just the soldiers who will have their lives destroyed. Our story is political, but all about surviving. And things just got more critical, for Groo is now arriving. So the minstrel lets us know that this story will be political in nature. And of course, we've got to expect that, considering what this fundraiser is supporting: refugees of war. It's a tale, at least this Groo story seems to be from the minstrel song, a tale of neighbors and brothers warring against each other. And of course there's that foreshadowing, not that we know it, that Groo might make things even worse. Actually, I wonder if Groo will end up accidentally making things better, as he sometimes does. And we've also got the Groo and Rufferto dialogue setting up a joke that we're going to see on the next page. So Groo says to Rufferto, "Do you know what I love best in this world, Rufferto?" Rufferto replies, "Me, I hope." And then Groo answers his own question down in this panel here. He says, "Cheese dip." "And do you know what I love best besides cheese dip?" he asks. And Rufferto says, "Me?" Groo replies, "More cheese dip." "And do you know what I love best besides more cheese dip?" Well, Rufferto's finally catching on, and he says, "Even more cheese dip?" Now, before we actually turn the page and find out the answer to Groo's question, there's just a couple things that I'd like to talk about this first page. First of all, who's doing the coloring here? Because it's a great coloring. Well, it's not Carrie Stachin. It's not Carrie Stachin. Strachin. I can't even read when it's right in front of me here. It's not Carrie Strachan. This is colored by Tom Luth. Is this the last Tom Luth Groo comic that we'll be reading? I think it might be. So enjoy it. And it looks great. Of course it looks great, but it looks great. Sergio's line work here. It's not that thin, scratchy kind of line work that I've commented on a bunch over the last few years, but in some places it still really isn't as fluid. It's not as round as, Sergio's old style of art. There might be a little bit of jitter, shake showing in the penmanship. So, it's just that new style of Groo art. Nevertheless, I'm not saying that Sergio phoned this in. This is quality Sergio Aragonés artwork. His care, his attention to detail, his artistic skill really shows in this comic. I think we'll all really love it when we get our hands on it. Stan is doing the lettering. Mark is doing whatever it is that Mark does. And yeah, it's like the last classic Groo Crew comic that we're going to have. Whoa. What's going on here? I touched something. That's crazy. Tap, everything's okay. Check out these little mushrooms down in the stump that the minstrel is sitting on there. I like that little touch there. And on the headstock of the minstrel's lute, we have I think it's called a Matryoshka doll. It's one of those Russian nested dolls that come from, actually, I was surprised. I looked this up. They don't go back as far as I thought. They only go back to about the 1890s. They were invented as a toy in Russia. They also moved to Poland. And of course, at that time, the Ukraine was part of Russia as well, right? Potentially inspired by the Japanese Dama dolls or the Seven Lucky Gods nesting dolls. Very interesting, I thought. And the name, Matryoshka, might evoke the word matron, so the motherly doll, and it's sometimes known as a babushka doll as well. So a little bit of significance in the headstock of the minstrel's lute here today. Yeah, of course. And one other thing I just want to notice is the art in Rufferto's head. Oh, I miss Rufferto's big, bulbous, peanut-shaped snout. I've just got to get used to the fact that he's got a much pointier snout, a thinner snout these days. His mouth seems to come back further than it used to. I think his head overall is smaller in recent years than Rufferto's head used to be. And, that just happens in drawing, right? Characters change and morph as the artist changes how he draws things over the years. And this is happening in the case of Rufferto. And yeah, of course, I'm old man 1980s and I say, oh, I like the art back when I first started reading Groo. And I do. But this is still pretty good stuff. Let's take a look at the next page. But before we do that, would you please take a moment to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like if you appreciate these types of videos that I make. Not only does it really help in getting YouTube to show these videos to a larger audience of potential viewers, but man, it really encourages me when you give me that thumbs up. Okay, let's take a look at the next page, panel by panel. So the question was, what does Groo like best besides cheese dip and cheese dip and cheese dip? Well, he likes a Fray. Of course. And Groo says, and all I need is an army like that one. And Rufferto says, oh, I like that too. I like those too. I like Frays. Groo and Rufferto are happy to join in this fray. They see this army marching in the distance. Along with the soldiers marching, there are horses in this army. There's a couple catapults. We see pikes and swords. I found this interesting that up in the corner we see pine trees, and it makes me think, okay, maybe we're in the north somewhere. Interesting. Makes me think of home, Canada. middle panel here. Groo enters into the battle. Once more a fool for fighting. Now, what does that mean? Is Groo stating the obvious that wars, that fighting, that frays really are generally a foolish thing to be involved in? You know there's got to be commentary in this particular comic. Sergio and Mark have been putting so much commentary in their comics for the last couple decades, but you know that's got to be in here. So that's what I assume we are reading into this statement. I want to point out that Groo's bandana, the tassels on the back of his bandana are just flying out behind him, and I like to see that in this picture. But we get a closer look at the soldiers in the army in this middle panel. We see red uniforms, we see those fur hats, beards, and mustaches, blue sashes as belts. Now, do the uniforms remind you of anything? They kind of remind me of something, and we'll talk about that in the next panel. We see an archer here, so that's a little bit new. We see scared horses. Check out that scared horse, and these soldiers with wide eyes that, oh, who is this barbarian coming to attack us? And I didn't mention it on the first page, but can we just take a close look at Groo's left foot here? I've said for a long time that I have problems drawing Groo's feet. You know, sometimes I wonder if perhaps Sergio has problems drawing Groo's feet. It could happen, I suppose. All right, down to this bottom panel. Groo is swinging his swords. These soldiers are tasting his blades. Take that and that. Ah, I am more the fool than usual. Because, of course, he's doing a great job of fighting here. So he's more the warrior and more the fool as usual. There's a couple funny things here. I'm not sure what this brown poop-shaped thing dangling off of this white sash on this soldier's uniform is. If you have any ideas about what this poop sack might be, please let me know in the comments. And, okay, so taking a look at these soldiers' uniforms even closer now, that reminds me of historical Russian military outfits. And so I got in touch with a good friend of mine, Tom, who is a bit of a world history nut. And I said, am I seeing in this art what I think I see? Oh, and by the way, Tom is also a big Groo fan. And he said to me, oh yeah, the uniforms are clearly intended to represent the Cossack people. Now, the Cossack people were the first group to oppose the Bolsheviks in the Russian Civil War following the revolution in 1917. And of course, there's a ton of history that goes into the Cossacks, their Ukrainian and Eastern European origins. And I really don't know. And I'm not trying to make you think that I know more than I know. That's about the extent that I know. But it'll be interesting to see how Sergio draws upon this history between the two peoples in this comic, how much he draws inspiration from real life events and inserts it into this Conquerors comic he's got in this anthology. But right now, taking a look at it, I love the beards, I love the mustaches, I love the fur hats. I think this is going to be great stuff. Would you like to take a look at the Usagi Yojimbo art? Of course you would. And so here we have Usagi on horseback leading a charge against what appear to me to be mounted samurai. Now, I don't know Japanese history or Usagi anywhere close to as much as I'm sure many of my viewers know. So I'm not going to try to understand or read into anything what I don't know here. I'm just telling you that's what it looks like I'm seeing. I think that Usagi is either defending these poorly armed peasants that we see involved in this battle, or perhaps he is joining alongside them in their either defense from these horseback samurai, or perhaps they are leading some sort of attack against them. I'm not sure, but it seems to me that those are the two factions that are fighting, Usagi and the peasants versus the mounted, well armored army. We'll notice down at the bottom that even though that this looks like it's on pages 30 and 31, so a nice double page spread here, Stan has indicated that this is page number 3 in his story. We'll come back and take a closer look at this a little bit later. Here, let me fake this again for you. I told you that I was going to tell you a little bit more about what Comics for Ukraine is about. So, it is a benefit comic anthology raising relief for Ukrainian refugees. It was launched and funded over a year ago, I believe in April of 2022, and is set to be delivered to supporters' doors in July. Actually, when I got the email this morning, I immediately replied and said, so are we still looking for a July delivery date? And the response I got back was, yes, look for it in July. So this relief fundraiser was put together by Scott Dunbier, and it's going to feature comics and artwork by dozens of the comic industry's greats, including, of course, Sergio and Stan. I think there's going to be about a dozen or more short comics, and this is only what I'm guessing, but I'm imagining they're all going to be around 8 pages in length. We've got special covers from Alex Ross, Arthur Adams, Dave Johnson, and please forgive my pronunciation, Bill Sinekowitz. In fact, I had to look up to see what cover I ordered when I backed this project, and I backed the Arthur Adams cover. They all look pretty good to me. I think I was intrigued by the black and white line work of the Arthur Adams cover, which, by the way, Arthur Adams, Dave Johnson, and Bill Sinekowitz are the soft cover artists. Alex Ross is doing the hardcover cover art. Anyway, I thought that Arthur Adams' art was really nice, and even though we're seeing it in black and white line work here, it's going to be in color when we actually get the comic book, so that'll be really fun to see when that shows up. Something else that I thought was really cool is Peter Cooper's name is attached to this project. He is providing a political cartoon, and of course, you will recognize Peter Cooper's name as the artist who is currently drawing Spy vs. Spy in Mad Magazine. I don't know, do we say that he's currently drawing Spy vs. Spy in Mad Magazine? I'm always a little bit confused as to whether or not Mad Magazine really is a going concern or not. I guess I know that it is, but there's also a host of other letterers, inkers, and colorists, including Tom Luth and his dog. Look at that cute picture of young Tom Luth. Aww. Tom, thank you again for all of your work over the decades. We love your work in Groo. We wish you a happy retirement. And anytime you want to color something, let us know because we want to see it. Here's something that I thought was really cool. A few months ago, Stan posted a short video on YouTube where he was drawing some of the artwork for his contribution to this anthology. And as it turns out, that artwork that he shows in the video is the same double-page spread that Zoop sent for us to take a look at today. Isn't that cool? Take a look at this. Now, as you spend a little bit more time with Sergio's drawings here, let me answer a couple questions you might have. Where can you get it? Well, you might be able to get it at Comic-Con in San Diego this summer. The real method for distribution of this comic was you back the comic to support the cause and you get your copy of it, and that closed last year. Other than that, if you didn't participate in the fundraiser, I think you've missed out. However, there were retailer packs sold as part of the fundraiser, so you may be able to get one if your local comic book store was one of the comic book stores that picked it up, or if you can find one of the online retailers that picked up one of these comic book store retailer packs. Of course, when I get my hands on this, I'll make sure to share with you as well. July is when we're supposed to get it, and maybe we'll even get it sooner, seeing as I've just made a video about this, and, last time I made a video about the Groo card game saying that it could be coming out soon, it was announced the next day, so maybe it'll come out right away. Who knows? Regardless, I am really looking forward to getting my hands on my copy of the anthology to take a look at all of the wonderful artwork and comics in it, especially Groo and Usagi Yojimbo. I'm going to leave you with a little bit more of the art to look at, and as I do, I want you to know that I've got more videos with great rare Sergio art right here. Be sure to subscribe and do all of the other good things, and if you are a fool for a Fray, like Groo is, the algorithm thinks you should watch this video next. Take care, everybody.